Okay, today is December 31st. It's 8:21 in the p.m. and it's time to make a little supper. What we're going to do today is we're going to make meatballs. What you need for this is we've got a couple of pounds of lean ground beef. I've got a couple eggs. I would actually like to have a couple more eggs, but we'll make do with what we've got. We're also going to be using some cornflakes, and we're going to get to that in a second. And what you can use here is onions and celery, but you would have to chop them up very finely. And what I like to do is I like to cut up the onions nice and fine and saute them first and then throw them into the mix. However, I'm feeling pretty lazy today, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this ground beef that we've taken out of the freezer and thawed it out enough so that there's still some ice crystals in it. It's actually quite cold on the hands, and we've got our sink full of nice hot soapy water here. And we're going to use, instead of using onions and celery, what we're going to do is we're going to use some onion powder and some celery salt. We also have some other things that we're going to throw in, but we'll get to that as we cross those bridges. So for now, what we'll do is we're going to make sure that we've got some cornflakes crushed up, because I don't want whole cornflakes, because then you end up eating big chunks of stuff. You can use breadcrumbs for this, but I like to use cornflakes because it adds a nice flavor and a nice sweetness. And for this amount, and what we're going to be pouring in, usually you like to have about the same volume as you're going to have for meat. My mother taught me a long time ago that you can pretty much stretch a pound of meat to feed a family of 8 if you add a few things to it. Breadcrumbs, cornflakes, whatever it takes. Now we've got all these cornflakes, I'm going to crush them down. I could sit here going like this, but what I like to use is a rolling pin, or, hey, look at that, a wine bottle. Wine bottle does a nice job. That's what my sister Jacqueline taught me. Isn't that cool? I wonder what she did with the wine afterwards. Now the only reason that we're using these crumbs is so that we can, well, a few reasons. One of the reasons is to dry out the mixture. It's nice and crumbly. In order to dry out the mixture's got to be a little bit wet. So we'll take a couple of eggs here. I could just throw them in and mix them up with my hand, but I like to have them a little bit scrambled up first. Hogan's Heroes theme. Trivia question: who played Hogan in Hogan's Heroes? Answer: Bob Crane. Another trivia question: what do you call a bunch of owls? We'll get to the answer on that one later. Okay. So we're going to throw this in. A couple of eggs. And make sure I get every speck of it, because really I need I would like to ideally have 2 eggs per pound of meat, and I've got a couple of pounds here, so we're going to mix that in to start off and make sure we've got the frozen pieces broken up. So this will make a mixture of about, if I do this properly, we should come out with 48 meatballs. Oh, this is going to be so cold. My hand is going to be freezing. Wow. And I think while I'm, speaking of temperature, I'm going to preheat the oven, and what we're going to do is we're going to go with a convection oven. Of 375 degrees. And even though I'm setting the convection oven for 375 degrees, I'm not going to use that right away. I'm just bringing up the temperature. We're going to use the broiler first. Whoa, that's cold. That's cold, baby, that's cold. Huh. Oh, time to go with 2 hands. Oh, that's so cold. So now we're going to start adding our, we don't want to overwork the meat, otherwise you end up with tough little meatballs with no texture. Ends up tasting like Chef Boyardee kind of stuff. We don't want that. Nothing against Chef Boyardee. Chef Boyardee is wonderful, but we're not looking for that texture here. So now we're going to start adding a little bit of flavor to it. We'll start off with a little bit of onion powder. Like I said, we can use some actual onions that are finely chopped. My son is a little against that, but half the stuff that I use has onions in it and he doesn't know it. And he says, "Wow, this is great, Dad." Don't tell him I said that. We'll have to edit that one out. So that's our onion powder. We're going to throw in some celery salt. Keep in mind, with onion powder, celery salt, and garlic powder, also known as garlic salt, when you add these things, you're basically adding salt. Give a little good sprinkle there. So you really don't need to add, like I was going to throw a whole bunch of salt in there, but we really don't need to add that much salt. We're just going to add a little bit of pepper here, and could give it a nice little bit of heat, tiny little bit of heat with a little bit of chipotle stuff. I don't want to add too much of that. And then we're going to go with our old standbys, these are the ones I like to use. I love using Diana sauce. Diana sauce is a beautiful flavor. This, unfortunately, is rib and chicken, but you got to go with what you got. Throw in a little bit of Diana sauce. And I love the plum sauce. Gives it a nice sweet flavor. Sort of a sweet and sour flavor. And mind you, these are not sweet and sour meatballs, but that gives it the sweet and sour flavor. Throw in a little ketchup there for, well, you know, the Navy gravy. You got to have it. And another thing I like to do is add a touch of soy sauce, more or less for color. Gives it a nice dark, probably a bit much there, but we'll see. We don't use too much. So now, of course, with all that moisture in there, we're going to have to throw in our crumbs to get it to the right texture. That's a lot of crumbs. I may have had too many crumbs there. But the good thing about that is if you have too dry a mixture, you add a little bit of milk. If you have too wet a mixture, you add a little more crumbs. Nothing to it. Mix it all together. Well, this actually looks like it's going to come out pretty nice. Oh, I think I might have spiced it up a little too much. Whew, that's going to be hot stuff. Oh, that's cold on the hands. Right on there. All right. I'm really wishing I had the extra couple of eggs in there right now, because that really helps to act as a binding agent and hold it together. But we will make do. This is just about the right texture that I'm looking for, and we're going to have meatballs about, I'm pretty lazy, so when I'm putting them on the pan, we're going to have meatballs about that size. So how do you make the meatballs? Why, you cheat, of course. You use a, do I have a baller? No, all I got is this guy. Here's what we're going to use. Now, I don't like to do a whole lot of cleanup, so what I do is I put my